Yo, 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 guys, what's up? So, we are trying to finish that book again. I kind of uh, got super sidetracked just because I was trying to like understand how dopamine, I could see the pattern. I could see how most of my choices was all dopamine, me trying to chase this high. I noticed it and I did a couple of things. For example, when my body was getting stressed, my mind was constantly thinking, why am I doing something wrong? Maybe this is not for me. Maybe I should just run away. I had all these thoughts, but now I had an extra thought, which was, oh, this is just stress hormones that's being released. That means that something I am doing, which is not in the dopamine circuit, so I could detach myself a bit more. That I feel is something that is valuable. However, I did say that I will try to finish this book 100%. So that's what we're going to be doing now. And so here we are, or let's say here's a book. So let's read along. Let me just center myself here. There we go. Do this. So, what do data tells us? So, what do the data tell us about the ideal proportion of treasure chest that should contain gems? I guess let's start. Are video games too addictive? I guess are video games addictive? Um, it's not just pornography that can ensnare computer users. Some scientists claim that the video games can also be addicting. In certain ways, video games are similar to casino games. Like slot machines, video games surprise the players with unpredictable rewards. They do more than that. That's one thing I've I'm noticing how so many companies create this unpredictable reward. For example, Uber randomly gives me discount tickets. Amazon randomly gives me offers on their subscriptions. It's very random and it's actually a very good deal too. So they do more than that, although that can make them even more potent agents of dopamine release. In researching this problem, psychologist Gentile, Douglas Gentile of Iowa State University found that nearly 1 in 10 gamers aged 8 to 18 are addicted, causing, let's just fast forward this blah 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 blah, rate of addiction more than 5 times, blah blah blah, blah. Okay, it's high. I want to know why. Part of the difference is that video games Gentiles studied were adolescents. It's unusual for adults to experience serious negative consequences of playing a video game. Adolescent brains, however, have not fully developed, so they may act like adults with brain damage. The biggest difference in adolescent brain is the frontal lobes, which don't completely develop until their early 20s. Now imagine all these kids watching shorts. You are giving your kids brain damage. Isn't that crazy? It's just sad. Maybe I should, maybe I should. So, no shorts for kids. That's a problem because it's the frontal lobes that gives adult good judgment. They act like brake, warning us when we are about to do something that might not be such a good idea. Without fully functioning frontal lobes, adolescents act impulsively and are at a greater risk of unwise decisions, even when they know better. This is so interesting to me because this sentence right here captures a feeling that I struggle with almost every day. You know what the better thing is, so why are we not choosing it? That I feel is such an interesting question. Um, so my question is, um, let me just put another thing. My question is uh, the ability ability to choose what we are going to do. Um, frontal lobe thing. I have to find a better system to organize all my notes. There's more to it than that. There's more to it than that, though. Video games are more complex than slot machines, so there are more opportunities for the programmer to bake in features that trigger dopamine release in order to make it hard to stop playing. Video games are all about imagination. They immerse us in a world where our fantasies can come true, where reality shunning dopamine can bask in endless possibilities. We can explore environments that constantly change, ensuring that the surprise never ends. We might we may start off in the desert, progress to a rainforest, then a dark alley in a gritty urban hell, then suddenly we are on rocket, hurling towards an alien world. Players do more than just explore though. Video games are about progress. They're about making the future better than the present. Gamers progress through levels while increasing their strength and abilities. It's a dopamine dream come true. To keep progress front and center in a gamer's mind, the screen constantly displays the accumulating points or growing progress bar so the player never forgets. They have to keep pursuing more. Video games are full of rewards. Gamers collect coins, hunt for treasure, or maybe capture magic unicorn to progress to the next level. Players' expectations are constantly kept off balance because they never know where the next reward will be. Some games will make you kill monsters to earn points, others make you look inside treasure chest. It's so funny. Some of my favorite games is Monster Hunter, which is all about killing monster, Last of Us, which has an amazing story. And I really wonder why stories are so addicting. I am addicted to a lot of stories, animes. I really would like to understand what makes a story so addictive. Um, hopefully that comes around. When a player opens a newly discovered chest, it may contain what he's looking for, but not always. If you need to collect, say, 7 gems, and every chest you open contained a gem, it would completely be predictable. There would be no surprises, no reward prediction errors, no dopamine. If, on the other hand, you had an, you had to open 1,000 chests to find a single gem, it would be so frustrating that everyone would give up. How does a game developer decide what percentage of chests should contain a gem? The answer is data. 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 All the AI companies are fighting for it, creating fake data. Lots of data. Online games are constantly collecting information about players. How long do they play? When do they quit? What kind of experiences make them play longer? What kind make them give up? According to the game theorist Tom Chatfield, the biggest online games have accumulated billions of data points about their players. They know exactly what lights up dopamine, what turns it off, though game designers are not thinking about these events as dopamine triggers, but simply as what works. So, what do the data tell us about the treasure chest that should contain gems? That that should contain gems. It turns out 25% is a magic number. That's what keeps people playing the longest. That's no reason why 75% should be empty. Game developers put low value rewards in non gem chest so every single one will contain a surprise. Maybe it's a small coin. Maybe it's a new scope in your rifle. Maybe it's a pair of sunglasses that will make your online character look cool. Or maybe it is something so powerful that it opens up a completely new way to interact with the game. Chatfield tells us that the reward like that should be found in only one out of thousand chests. By the way, the game probably won't let you progress to next level with only those 7 gems. The billions of data points tell us that 15 is the optimal number for getting people to play as long as possible. It is worth mentioning that there are also H&N pleasures in a video game that contribute to their appeal. Many games let you play with their friends. The pleasure we get when we socialize for no other reason other than enjoyment of the company. On the other hand, when we get together to accomplish a shared goal, it's a dopaminergic because we are working towards a better future. Video games provide both types of social pleasure. Many video games are also beautiful. Another way of simulating here and now delight. Oh my god, guys, this is crazy. Where do I? Inside. So this is actually crazy. Uh, Page 63. This is the reason why things are ugly now. Because we try to get dopamine more future and what we could have in past. We were all about what we did have. So what I'm saying that the theory is we are trying to maximize in right now It's all about the dopamine. Reels, the prizes, everything is about dopamine. But in past, they did not have many activities that would release dopamine other than the basic stuff. So everyone was optimizing how do I be pleasurable when I'm just existing in this present moment. So I'm just sitting here. How can I make this experience pleasurable? And that's when I guess all the artists came in and they were like, okay, let's make everything pretty. So when you're around all these pretty, beautiful things, you are still having a pleasurable experience, which is coming from a different aspect of your mind, which is the here and now chemicals. That's what he's saying, the H&Ns. Some of them are in fact astonishing because enormous resources have been poured into amassing talented people to create them. The Los Angeles Times reported that developing online game Star Wars blah, 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 required more than 800 people on 4 continents at the cost of over 200 million. The game is vast. Working through all the storylines would require thousands of hours of play. Spending that much money to create a game is risky, but there's a potential of a big payoff. Grand Theft Auto, one of the most successful. Uh, okay, I'll just go bathroom and come. Okay, dopamine versus dopamine, which I guess is a good thing. I can't believe it's just one page that we are reading in like 15 minutes. Crazy. I would love to buy a laugh mic just to see what that sounds like. Should I search what a laugh mic sounds like? Let's see. How much is a amazing laugh mic that I can connect to DJI? Um, anyway, dopamine versus dopamine. Boop. It's natural for us to confuse wanting and liking. It seems obvious that we would want the things that we are liking. That's how it works if we are rational people. It's this is like one thing, right? Here's one inside. Um, that's how it would work if we are rational creatures, despite all the evidence to the contrary. We persist in thinking what we are rational creatures, but we are not. Frequently, we want things that we don't like. Our desires can lead us towards things that may destroy our lives, such as drugs, gambling, and out of control behaviors. In inside here, it seems obvious that we would want the things we are liking. Uh, we want the we are liking. That's not true. We need to become conscious of that. One thing I really wanted to emphasize. Oh my god, no, 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 no. Where am I even here? One thing really did want to emphasize that there is this assumption that we want what we like. However, that is not true. You could want something and you could like something, and they are two different experiences. That is why we often regret. This is where the buyer's remorse comes in, and all the fantasies you have in the head when you're actually trying to actualize it, the actual experience of it is often very disappointing. We have to investigate more the difference between wanting and liking. I want to understand more experientially what that means. So let me just type that down. Um, Insight is this, question is this, Experiential. Yeah, between wanting and liking. Experiential difference between wanting and liking. The dopamine circuit is powerful. It focuses attention, motivates, and thrills. It has a profound influence over the choices we make. Yet, it isn't at all, but it isn't all powerful. Addicts get cleaned, dieters lose weight. Sometimes we switch off the TV, get off the couch, and go for a run. What kind of circuit in the brain is powerful enough to oppose dopamine? Dopamine is. Dopamine opposing dopamine. The circuit that opposes the desired circuit might be called the dopamine control circuit. You may recall that in many situations, future focused dopamine opposes the activity of here and now circuits and vice versa. If you are thinking about where to go for dinner, you're probably not appreciating the taste, smell, and the texture of the sandwich you're eating for lunch. But there's also opposition within the future oriented dopamine system itself. Why would the brain develop circuits that work against each other? Wouldn't that wouldn't it make more sense to have everyone pulling together, so to speak? In fact, no. Systems that contain opposing forces are easier to control. That's why cars have both an accelerator and a brake. That's why brain uses circuits that can counter each other. Not surprisingly, dopamine control circuit involves frontal lobes, the part of brain that sometimes called the neocortex because it evolved the most recently. It's what makes human beings unique. It gives us the imagination to project ourselves further into future than the desired circuits can take us, so we can make long-term plans. So that's also the part that allows us to maximize resources in the future of creating new tools and using abstract concepts, concepts that rise above the here and now experience all of the sense, like language, mathematics, and science. It's, int- it's intensely rational. It doesn't feel because emotion is the as we see to speak. I was reading it, but then I slowly lost. Um, let's just understand that a bit. Dopamine versus dopamine. Um, so another thing is he said not surprisingly, the dopamine control circuit involves the frontal lobes, the part of the brain that's sometimes called the neocortex because it evolved most recently. It's what makes human being unique. It gives us the imagination to project ourselves into the future, then the desire circuit to make us so we can make long-term plans. It's also the part that allows us to maximize resources in the future of It doesn't feel because emotion is an here and now pheromone. I don't understand. How is emotion and here and now pheromone? Let me just Google it. Head and neck. Mm, okay. So they're just basically saying that impulse without reason is not enough. Impulse without reason is not enough. And reason without impulse is a poor makeshift. One cool judgment is worth dozen hasty counsels. Chapter 3, Domination. In which dopamine drives us. How far will you go? In which dopamine drives us to overcome complexity, adversity, emotion, and pain so we can control our environment. Planning and calculating. Just wanting rarely gets just wanting rarely gets you much of anything. You have to figure out how to obtain it and whether it's worth having at all. In fact, when we do things without thinking about how and what next, failure is not even the worst possible outcome. The results can range from little overreacting, from little overre- huh. The results can range from a little overeating all the way to reckless gambling, drug abuse, and worse. Desire dopamine makes us want things. It's the source of the raw desire. Give me more. But we are not the ungoverned mercy of our desire. We also have a complementary dopamine circuit that calculates what sort of more is worth having. It gives us the ability to construct plans, to strategize and dominate the world around us to get the things we want. How does a single chemical do both things? Think of a rocket fuel that powers the main engine of the spaceship. The same fuel that pushes the rocket forward can be redirected to drive the directional thrusters to steer the ships, as well as retro rockets to slow it down. It all depends on the path the fuel takes before it's ignited. Different functions, but it's all working together to get the spaceship to its destination. In a, it's funny. I'm reading this and I'm having like this thought. Should I be learning American accent? Would that actually help me with my channel? Then I realized, why not have an Indian accent? I'm Indian. It'd be weird. But then I sometimes think, what if people would like me more if I had an American accent? And many actors train different accent, American, British. So what's so wrong in me training a different accent? But then again, what's the point? I don't know. But I guess it's just not worth the time right now. I guess we have much more important things to do, like finishing this book. This book is not ending, dude. I don't know what to do. It all depends on the path the fuel takes before it's ignited. Different functions, but it's all working together to get the spaceship to its destination. In a similar way, dopamine moves to dopamine moving through different brain circuits yield different functions too, and towards a common end, a relentless focus on enhancing the future. The urges come from a dopamine passing through the mesolimbic circuit, which we call the dopamine desire circuit. Calculation and planning, the means of a dopamine, the means of dominating situations, come from what the hell, mesocortical circuit. Who comes up with these names, dude? Let me just see. And uh, word origin. This is how I realize this is the best way to learn. If I just find like the word origin, a description of anatomy. Meso comes from the Greek mesos. If I wanted to learn biology, I guess I would first have to learn Greek because most of these terms are Greek. Why? I don't know. Maybe I should ask it after this. Meso in Greek means middle. In neuroanatomy, it is short for mesencephalon. Mesencephalon, the scientific term for midbrain. This represents the starting point of both pathways. Limbic comes from the Latin limbus, meaning border. Cortical comes from Latin cortex, meaning bark or shell. Middle border shell. Middle brain border. Meso middle brain outer shell. Calculation and planning, the means of dominating situations, comes from mesocortical circuit, which we call the dopamine control circuit. Why we call it the control circuit? Because its purpose is to manage the uncontrolled urge of desired dopamine, is to take the raw energy and guide it towards a profitable end. Also, by using abstract concepts and forward looking strategies, it allows us to gain control over the world around us and dominate our environment. The urge comes from dopamine passing through mesolimbic circuit, which we call the dopamine. Yeah. Then we have mesocortical circuit, which we call the dopamine control circuit. Okay. We have two circuits now. One is the mesolimbic, another is a mesocortical. In addition to dopamine control circuit, in addition, dopamine control circuit is the source of imagination. This is a very strong statement. It lets us peer into the future to see the consequences of the decision we make right now and thus allows us to choose which future we prefer. Finally, it gives us the ability to plan how to make the future, how to make the imaginary future a reality. Like the desire circuit, which only cares about things we do not have. Controlled dopamine works in unreal world of possibilities, which only cares about what we do not have. This is a great line. Okay. uh, Let me just put I have to again spend like couple hours to organize all these information to make it concise. But I guess that's what this video is for. Mm, In this way, both circuit gives us the capacity to consider phantoms, things things that don't physically exist. For desired dopamine, those phantoms are things we wish to have but don't have right now, things we want in future. For controlled dopamine, the phantoms are the building blocks of imagination and creative thought, ideas, plans, and theories, abstract concepts of mathematics and beauty, and the world yet to be. I guess this is about the control. Let me just write it. Dopamine. It's an extended and complex execution of the evolutionary imperative to secure as many resources as possible. In contrast, desired dopamine is the kid in the back seat shouting to for his parents, "Look, look," every time you see a McDonald's, toy store, a puppy on the sidewalk. Controlled dopamine is present at the wheel, hearing each request and considering whether it's worth stopping for, and deciding what to do if he pulls over. Controlled dopamine takes the excitement, motivation provided by desired dopamine, evaluates options, desired tools, and plots a strategy to get what it wants. So, wanting something and refining what you want are two different things. Let me just wanting something and refining what are two things. Systems have this is a great insight actually. Systems have a counterbalancing force to control anything, There are any number of reasons to prefer one car over the other. Let's say this young man is thrifty and wants the best car he can afford at the lowest price. Tapping into the desired dopamine energy, he spends hours on the internet poring over car review sites, developing negotiation strategies. He wants to know every detail he can to maximize the value of his purchase. This actually happened to me. I got scammed into buying a car, and then it was too expensive, and I said I don't want the car. Then that guy said I won't give you the $1,000 deposit. Then I went, I complained to Omvik. Then they called the dealership and then they gave me, you know, consider a woman, consider a woman on her way to work. She drives to the train station, taking a roundabout route that avoids the morning rush of our traffic. Blah 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 blah. This is all like just supporting this thing. It's fun figuring things out. It's fun figuring things out, and it's fun carrying out the strategies developed to game the intricacies. Why? As always, function of dopamine flows from imperative of evolution and survival. Dopamine encourages us to maximize our resources by rewarding us when we do so. The act of doing something well, of making our future better, a safer place, gives us a little dopamine buzz. Uh, Insight. Doesn't want us. So want. Is this the reason why I love starting things? I'm just processing it. Is this the reason why I love starting things? Like a lot of things I did. Example, even this YouTube channel, I'm consuming a lot of content on how to make better videos, how I can game the system, stuff like this. Is it because it releases dopamine that it rewards me to strategize and game the system? That's definitely so fun. I will say so. It's crazy. It's already close to an hour, huh? That's crazy. So in an hour, so we are reading like 10 pages an hour. We still have so many pages to go. No, why? 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 Dopamine increase tenacity. I have not failed. I've just found a 10,000 ways that won't work. A young man recently, blah blah blah, didn't have a job. It was same relationship. Therapy was a failure. Okay. The world doesn't always work the way we expect it to. We learn it at an early age that Scott Tape does a great job fixing tears in paper, but doesn't do so well with broken toys and smashed up dinner plates. The entrepreneur who develops the next killer technology is in his garage is often surprised to find that the world isn't beating a path to his door. Success takes years of hard work and so many revisions to the original idea that it's barely recognizable by the time it gets to the market. It's not enough just to imagine the future. To bring an idea to fruition, we must struggle with uncompromising realities of the physical world. We need not only our knowledge but also tenacity. Dopamine, the chemical of future success, is there to deliver. Oh my god, really? These people experiment on rats. I have to compile like all the crazy experiments they did to rats just so that I can document it. You have any doubt on why humans do what they do? Just experiment on rats. That's basically what I understand. One way to study tenacity in laboratory. Laboratory. The one way to study tenacity in a laboratory, labor, laboratory, labor, what the hell? Lab, laboratory.
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 Laboratory. One way to study tenacity in a laboratory is to measure we how hard a rat will work to get food. Typically by counting the number of times it will press a lever that sends food pellets sliding down. By increasing the number of lever presses to get food, and whether the rats can determine and increase their efforts. She could have wanted to see if they could manipulate a rat's tenacity by changing the activity of dopamine in its brain. They put a they put a cage full of rats to reduce on a reduced calorie diet until the animal lost 15% of their weight. For comparison, 25 pounds. After the rat were good and hungry, scientists gave them an opportunity to work for rewards in a form of bioserve tablets, a delicious treat to rats at least. It comes in a variety of flavors, including chocolate, marshmallow, pina colada, and bacon. They began to they began by dividing the rats into two groups. They designed the first group to as control group that, and as for the second group, injected neurotoxin into their brain that destroyed some of their dopamine cells. Then they began the experiment. The first experiment is easy. To receive the bioserve read, each rat had to press a lever one time. Since essentially no work was needed, no tenacity is required, this experiment established a necessary condition. It demonstrated that the dopamine deficient rats like the treats as much as the normal rats. This is important because if the dopamine deficient rats no longer wanted bioserve goodies, scientists would have not been able to test how hard they would work for them. When no work was required, the dopamine deprived rats pressed the lever as many times as the normal rats and devoured the treats they had earned. This outcome was not surprising because liking and enjoying would not be expected to change the result of a dopamine alteration. Things did change though when rats had to work harder. When the required number of lever presses was increased from 1 to 4, the normal rats pressed their levers nearly 1,000 times over in the course of 30 minutes. The depleted rats went as motivated. They pressed the lever only 600 times. When requirement was increased to 16 presses, the normal rats produced nearly 2,000 presses, while the dopamine depleted rats barely increased their presses at all. They were getting only one quarter of the treats, but they wouldn't work harder. Finally, the requirement was bumped all the way to 64 presses for a single bioserve tablet. The normal rats managed 2,500 presses, more than one press per second, for an entire 30 minutes. Oh my god, dude. The games they play with these rats, dude. I love it. So funny. I don't even understand how they come up with these experiments. Yeah, who gets these ideas, dude? The dopamine depleted rats didn't increase their work at all. In fact, they pressed less than they had. They simply gave up. Removing dopamine appeared to diminish a rat's will to work. But one more experiment was done to confirm that it was tenacity that was affected by dopamine destruction, not liking. Ice cream is always nice, but if you just finished a big meal, you probably wouldn't want much dessert as you would if you hadn't eaten. How much ice cream you want has nothing to do with whether you are working hard or lazy. It's just that the food doesn't mean as much when you're not hungry. So scientists added a new dimension to the experiment. They manipulated hunger. Scientists brought a group of new rats, gave them good meal, then put them through the experiment. At all levels of effort, every one single press half as much as the hungry ones. When the requirement was doubled, they doubled their efforts. When the requirement was quadrupled, they quadrupled their efforts. But when they but they always stopped at about one half the presses of the hungry rats. They didn't slack off, they didn't give up. They just didn't want to eat as many pellets because they went hungry. The results revealed a subtle but vital distinction. The feeling of hunger, not the absence of hunger, changed how much the rat valued the pellets, but it did not diminish the willingness to work. Hunger is a Hechan pheromone, an immediate experience, not an anticipatory dopamine driven one. Manipulate hunger and some other sensory experience, and you will affect the value of the reward earned through work. But it's dopamine that makes the work possible at all. No dopamine, no effort. This points us towards an understanding of how dopamine affects us choices we make between working hard and taking it easy. Sometimes we want a fancy meal. We are willing to work hard to prepare it. Other times we want to do is veg out. We'll tear open a bag of Cheetos in front of TV instead of working for even few minutes to simple meal. Consequently, the next step, uh, okay, the scientists set up a cage with bioserve machine and a bowl of lab chow. Lab chow was bland but freely available, no work required. to get the much tastier biosoft tablets, that would have to make 4 lever presses, minimum effort, but effort nonetheless. We're right for the biosoft trees. They're willing to do a little bit more, but the dopamine depleted rats on the other hand it over the easy. The ability to put forth effort is dopaminergic. The quality of the effort that can be influenced any number of. The ability to put. Okay. Okay, guys, I guess this is it. I will go bath and stuff. I have to head out to work. But thanks for watching if anyone is watching. And take care. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.